hello. A bit late, but I am here. And of course, today on the cards. Tomorrow is the big day. Champions League is back. And of course, Arsenal are taking part in Champions League. And of course, it feels like it is Gyökeres. Well, I don't know, tryouts, review, Gyökeres derby, or whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, it is what it is, I guess. But ultimately, yeah, it's kind of an addition if Gyökeres would like to join Arsenal, and ultimately if on Gyökeres audition for Arsenal. It kind of works both ways, because if Sporting just destroys Arsenal, like if there is any hope of us signing Gyökeres, there's a big chance that will destroy it completely, potentially. There's some transfer talks still on the way, so we're definitely gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about, of course, Sporting Lisbon. I'm gonna talk about the the one that what we don't want to remember, aka Europa League. And if we are lucky enough, and it is all at the moment already posted on Arsenal's website, we gonna look at some Koeman music, because the last one was a different kind. The last one was that was a nuts one. Let's just say it that way. So, if you're ready, smash thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell, all that good stuff. Get live interactive in the chat, and if you're watching this playback, of course, don't forget to comment. Big up Nathan, big up Jimmy, big up everyone, big up. And we are starting today with, well, we're gonna start off today with, well, everything. Let's just put it straight as it is. We're gonna kick things off with one of those weird news nobody expected to see today, but it's actually a possibility. Tierney is back. Remember him? He used to be at Arsenal. Well, technically he still is at Arsenal, but he hasn't played for Arsenal for over a year now. Nearly a year and a half, to be honest. It's a wild one. It's genuinely a wild one. But apparently he has recovered from the injuries. He is with the squad. He has traveled to Portugal, and he will be with the team once we face Sporting Lisbon tomorrow. Of course, ultimately it's a great thing to have him back. Maybe we could actually see him play, although I doubt it, because he hasn't played since July, so genuinely half a year. So it will be a bit of, no, June even, so that exactly half a year. So it will be a bit of a struggle for him. Maybe he will see some minutes, maybe not. But ultimately still rumors for him surround him in terms of maybe leaving in January already. Whether it could be full-time sell, whether it's gonna be a loan, still remains to be seen. But on the positive side, it's finally he's back. That's just one thing. However, there's the big issue with this. Will Arteta play him? And I have very small trust that he will, because for me, quote unquote, Tierney is the best left back at the club, of course. Defensively, he can overlap, he can cross, decent shot, and all that stuff. But there is one thing he doesn't excel at as much as Calafiori, as Timber, as who else is there? Luis Skelly, even Kivior to some extent, and Tomiyasu as well. It is inverting. So I guess Mikel Arteta doesn't like him as much, but yeah, I guess it is what it is. Nothing against Kieran, but exactly, ultimately it is. I love Kieran Tierney. I wish he could stay injury free, because I think he could have been actually a very, very, very important player for Arsenal long term, because when he just joined, when he was playing, there were talks about him being potentially future captain. People said the future is bright for him at Arsenal and everything. But Emery got sacked, Arteta came in, and Kieran Tierney pretty much got the Ramsdale treatment very early. He got injured, exiled from the team, Zinchenko came in, and even Saka played at left back at some point, and we never saw him again. He went on loans, and yeah, I guess it is what it is at the end of the day. And in between those things, we signed few defenders, so he never got a proper chance to recover. But now Arsenal, of course, he's with the team. That's great. For squad-wise, squad depth-wise even, because there were times when we were putting under 20s in the team. But will he play any games? I have very, very little trust in that. For me, I guess his time is done at Arsenal, which is a bit of a on a sour note, or quite a bit of a sour note, to be honest. I wish he could have actually gotten a proper chance, but injuries and of course Mikel Arteta, those two things combined, and yeah, that I guess is it. It's purely, genuinely, as Jimmy is saying, purely because of PR, in my opinion, as well. But nothing against him, but I guess it is what it is. In other news, of course, there are still some talks about Arda Güler. That comes from Daily Mirror. Arsenal have made a contact with the 19-year-old over the possibility of a move from Real Madrid. I'm not sure whether it's now gonna happen or not, because with the injury to Vinny Jr., with potential that now Mbappe is gonna play from the left, maybe Rodrigo down the mid through the middle, it means that right side could be open because Rodrigo as well is still injured. So basically it opens up time for Güler and Brahim Diaz to get actually some proper game time now at Real Madrid. How long is Vinny and Rodrigo still out for? I haven't read too much into it. But yeah, that injury came in a time where basically Arsenal are interested in him, and that actually could shut everything down. Would I like to see him at Arsenal, see how he plays, see what he's all about? Because we have seen some games at Real Madrid, but he due to injuries, and we have seen him for Turkey, that amazing goal in Euros as well. Of course, I would love to. The thing is, this comes also with a price. This comes me with a big question. If we sign Arda Güler or even Brahim Diaz, anyone from those two guys on loan, what's gonna happen with Ethan Nwaneri then? Because Arda Güler plays point per point in the same positions as Ethan Nwaneri, as number 10 or as a right wing. So technically he plays both positions that Nwaneri is being used into, as a backup for Odegaard, potentially as a backup from Saka from the right. So that begs the big question. If we sign him, even on loan, what's going to happen with Ethan? Will he go out on loan? Will he stay? Will he just sit and patiently wait, or what? Because Arteta has said that it's all about opportunities, it's about timing, we have to be patient and all that stuff. But yeah, if he says all this and then signs Arda Güler or Brahim Diaz, whoever, it will raise more questions than give answers. That arguably could show some things about how much Arteta trusts in Nwaneri, because even with Odegaard injured, Nwaneri didn't get any game time, proper one. So I guess it's all up in the air, but ultimately I wouldn't mind seeing him at Arsenal on loan. I'm gonna be honest with you. The issue with this is it genuinely would hinder the development, in my opinion, of Ethan Nwaneri, unless somehow Arteta plays him in a number 8. Somehow. That is the only drawback. With the Salah news report saying he's open to London clubs, dude, he's not coming. Get this. I already realized, I think we have to make already this assumption that he's not coming. He's a right winger. We have our own right winger, which is basically undroppable in eyes of Mikel Arteta, which ultimately means that what he's gonna do, play on the left side? That's it? He's gonna play on the left side as a starter? Maybe? But that would be technically a new position he would have to learn, potentially, if he even would come. So this again would be a very, very, I don't think, a good business for Arsenal, because Salah as well would demand about 400 grand a week. Obviously, despite his age and everything, he has shown at the moment no signs of dropping the levels, but at the same time, I don't know. Genuinely, I wouldn't. I think Nwaneri will play more minutes now with Odegaard back last 15. That could be the case. But for me, this begs another issue. I know I'm looking at these things maybe way too deeply. I'm looking at this from a very different angle or something like that. But Martin Odegaard is our captain, right? And if you have watched football for quite some time, right? How often do you see the captain being substituted? Like in general. Because captain usually is in the team is a guy who stays on the pitch throughout the whole 90, isn't it? At least that's how I see it, and that's how I believe it should be. Although at the same time a bit old school, I would love to see a captain being a center back or a wing back or maybe a holding DM that oversees the pitch and controls the game and can see how the game is developing from the whole perspective at the same time. So that also for me kind of raises the big question if Ethan's gonna play more. That also for me gives me a bit of a issue with the fact that we are substituting our captain quite often. Because Odegaard was injured, he played against Chelsea and he played a full goddamn 90. Like, let that sink in. That also shouldn't be a thing, that also shouldn't be happening at Arsenal in general. So again, more questions than answers at the same time, as I was saying all the time. So I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe I'm looking too deep into things. Maybe I'm looking too much into things. But at the same time, I preferably would love to have a captain that doesn't get substituted. Because no other captain, more often than not, when you watch games in Premier League and then the other league, never get substituted. More often than not. An Arsenal substitute the captain quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie. Compared to other teams, we do it very often. But that's just, I guess, my subjective opinion on that regard. I don't think Mikel can mess Ethan about for. Yeah, that is the case. That's for me as well. We in June 30th we let go 20 plus youngsters already, for which we could have gotten some nice money. I'm not gonna lie. And at the same time, he didn't even play him when he got a chance. He didn't play against Southampton, against Leicester, against Bournemouth in the games where technically he should be able to start, because whenever he comes on as a substitute, he gives us a different dimension, different energy in the attack, and he takes over. When he comes on as a sub, he provides more in the attack than more often than not Sterling and Jesus combined throughout the whole 90 when they have played. So it is what it is, because I don't know what Arteta is doing, but yeah, messing up Ethan Vanieri would be genuinely very bad, to say the least, because Ethan Vanieri for me is the hottest prospect that has come out from KLN since Bukayo Saka. And if you and talents like that, if you develop them properly, don't come out too often. Maybe once in a decade, once in 20 years. But unless you have a very insane academy like La Masia, Real Madrid Academy, Ajax Academy, and stuff like that. But Arsenal don't get these too often. And if we mess this up, this could be very, very bad. Very bad. And I think if he messes this up, there is a big possibility that the whole fan base will turn on Mikel Arteta. Because Ethan is one of those players that at the moment has quite a bit of hype. He has shown what he can do when he gets subbed on. He hasn't gotten a proper start in any games in Premier League or Champions League or whatever. He has played only starter roles against the smaller teams like Bolton and Preston. So if he messes that up, it genuinely could go wild in Arsenal, in the world of Arsenal, and not just in the club but in fan base as well. Him going back to Chelsea. Yeah, that would be genuinely devastating if he goes back to Chelsea. Playing every 3 days, Odegaard. Yeah, that's the thing. He will have to be managed. But then again, this is where these news come in, where we are linked with possible loan for Arda Güler, some rumors about Brahim Diaz, but I don't believe in them as much as for example, for Arda Güler. That's where he comes in my opinion, in January. And then the question is, what's going to happen with Ethan if this comes to fruition, if this comes to life and we actually do it? Because all these rumors, as much as there are many quite like 99% are fake rumors, that's what it looks like at least, because Arsenal are linked with the whole footballing world and basically signed maybe 2 players. If it could happen, this is one of those that actually has some merit behind it, in my opinion, to some extent. Arteta hides his managerial inexperience with experienced players on the pitch, and that is the case. Arteta, in my opinion, the fact that he's inexperienced at the moment is costing him dearly. He has no balls in that instance. He doesn't take risks. He rather plays safe. He'd rather be safe than sorry. He doesn't risk with tactics. If he knows that we are playing against bigger, tougher opposition, more often than not we park the bus and we actually don't go for it. Because we just saw Spurs destroy City 4-0 at the Etihad. Most of the teams that have gone to Etihad this season or have played against Man City, your Brightons, Bournemouth, Brentfords, teams like that, they don't sit back ever. They go for it. And those are the smaller teams. And a big part of Arsenal's fan base, and I like to think myself as well, that Arsenal is a big club, no matter what other people say. But we, despite that, just sit back. We park the bus, hope for a counter, hope for a chance, and everything. And that, for me, is genuine inexperience, somewhat fear, and people may say it's the respect for opposition. But if you want to win titles, as much as you want to give opposition some respect, you also should not give a damn about opposition. And I think that is also one of the reasons why Ethan Vanieri, even when he comes on as a sub, is doing so good. Because he's young, somewhat inexperienced, and we all know, I have played some football, I have played other sports. When I have come up against big oppositions, like big name oppositions with big players, the inexperience, the fact that I'm still young, I'm a hothead in a way, to some extent, I don't know better also to some extent, is a massive advantage. And we see that because Ethan is not afraid to take on opponent. He's not afraid to dribble. He's not afraid to ask for the ball, carry it, and actually go for it. But many times when our main experienced guys play, they just feel like they are like mid-table, lower-end table team that basically needs to park the bus just to try and get some outcome at the end of the day. Ethan has to be undeniable. Lucky us, he's the luckily, yeah. Obviously, to say that he's the real deal, in my opinion, is a bit too early, because we haven't seen him over extended period of time as a starter and stuff like that. But from all the cameos and things we have seen from the bench, he already, just coming from the bench, is contributing more in those 10, 15, 20 minutes than, for example, Jesus contributes in the whole game. More often than not, Sterling contributes in the whole game. Although Sterling's a bit of an exception to some extent because he doesn't get proper game time. And even Trossard most of the time. He also doesn't perform well. When Ethan comes on, he just outperforms many players that we have. And that cannot be the case if we are quote-unquote comparing our youngster to our experienced guys in this instance. When Yeri would go to Allianz and not... Exactly, he would not hide. Obviously, there could be there could be a place where nerves get best of him and stuff like that because it's a first big game and maybe something in those terms. But ultimately, like, when I watch him play, yes, there is some rawness into his game. Maybe he's a bit too weak, but that's again, he's super young, he's 17 and he needs to grow into his body and everything. But he plays with no fear, with utter no respect to the opponent. And he plays for the moment, for the occasion. He's not afraid of it. And when our main guys play, it feels like they are somewhat afraid. Odegaard, Saka, and our main guys, it feels like they basically have some sort of a mental block or something that when it comes to the crunch time, to the big moment when they have to perform, they tend to drop the biggest stinker they have ever dropped during the season. And that is something that cannot ride at Arsenal if they want to win something this season specifically. Because at the moment, next Sunday, for example, Liverpool play City at Anfield. In my opinion, if Liverpool win, there's a big possibility that City actually might somewhat shift their focus from Premier League, because they have done a treble, they don't care, 4-peat even, and they will shift their focus to FA Cup, to Champions League. And in that instance, that could be the worst case scenario for Arsenal. Because at the moment, we are 9 points behind Liverpool, and if we drop even further before January transfer window, although I have very little trust that we will do anything there, we again will be left hanging. We will have no trophies, no major honors again to our name. That also could be the case. Big up Marlon, big up my guy, big up. In other news, Victor Gyökeres, the man of the hour, the guy we are playing tomorrow. According to Mirror, Manchester United will make Victor Gyökeres their primary transfer target in the summer. And the issue is, if they get this, and by the way, if the rumors are true, that next summer his release clauses or the price that teams have to pay for him drop from the almost 90 million release clauses to about 65, 67 million, there's no shadow of a doubt in my mind that one of the big clubs of the world or some of the big teams in Premier League will take him 100%. And that actually could be the worst case scenario for Arsenal. However, there is some counter-argument to that. Arsenal are still interested in Isak. However, according to Team Talk, Chelsea as well have joined Arsenal in the race for Alexander Isak. Newcastle would demand at least 115 million for the 25-year-old, which is a very huge extended amount of money. For that type of money, you can buy 2 Gyökereses in summer, almost. Again, that would be something very, very, very questionable if Arsenal did that. However, there are numerous rumors coming out that Arsenal have prioritized Isak as their number 1 target for summer. At the same time, some different reports are claiming that Gyökeres is number 1 target for the summer. The issue is, the way I see it, with Arsenal specifically, it is, oh, Gyökeres is number 1 target, Isak is number 1 target, but at the end of the day, we will sign Benjamin Šeško. That is how I see this going in summer. That is genuinely how I see this potentially going in the summer. We need to start going to a winning streak and hope that City, something like that. Either they get a draw or City wins. That would be the best case scenario. City wins. Granted, Arsenal win against the West Ham, obviously. But best case scenario, City wins against Liverpool. And the other case is that they get a draw. So we get close. We overtake City if we win against against West Ham, and we get 2 points closer to Liverpool, of course. Worst case scenario, Arsenal win and Liverpool win. Then it genuinely, we will be one step forward, one step closer to it being inevitable that Liverpool actually might do it. And that could be an issue. Zirkzee was crap yesterday. Yeah, he was. The thing is though, there are already reports coming out, and countless ones from Italy, from England, from everywhere, that Zirkzee in January could go on loan to Juventus or somewhere in Italy back. There are already rumors and reports claiming that, so I guess Zirkzee's transferred, and how much did they pay for him? Around 40 million? I guess it's not working out for them, genuinely. I saw Jesus plus cash for Isak. I also saw that. Plus Newcastle allegedly, according again to some rumors, to Team Talk or whoever, are interested in Jesus. Not sure why and how, but they actually are. If Jesus could actually score some goals, that would be nice, because he hasn't scored a goal in Premier League since what, February this year or something like that, if I'm not mistaken even. Wait, let's check this. Gabriel Jesus. Let's check this. Gabriel Jesus. Let's see when he scored the last goal in Premier League. View full stats. Well, obviously this season he hasn't scored. So last time he scored in Premier League was against Nottingham Forest in 30th of January. 30th of January. So we are 2 months away from it being a whole goddamn year since Gabriel Jesus has scored for Arsenal. I'm not gonna lie, that is Eddie Nketiah levels of scoring. That is Eddie Nketiah levels of scoring. Jesus hasn't scored for Arsenal in Premier League since Nottingham Forest game, ironically enough, on 30th of January. That is actually criminal. That we paid 45 million for the guy, plus he's getting 240 something grand a week for these performances. And yesterday as well, we scored 3. Well, 2 days ago, we scored 3 past Forest. He did nothing. When Yeri came on, instantly scores, bang. Like, it's not gonna fly. Will Gyökeres score tomorrow? That is the big question. Because the way I see this game, for a wider view in a way, is the way how it could go is the fact that this is audition for Arsenal to prove that Gyökeres should come. Because if Sporting destroy us, Gyökeres has no reason to come here. No reason whatsoever. At the same time, it is audition also for Gyökeres, as Arsenal being one of his potential targets, to prove himself that he is worthy of playing for Arsenal. That's how I see it, at least at the moment. The issue with this is though, and here is the big yikers about this. I know I usually never say yikers, but we are where we are. Arsenal away record in Portugal: 11 games, 6 draws, 4 losses, 1 win. And in last few years we lost to Porto and we drew to Sporting Lisbon. And Lisbon beat us at the Emirates, by the way. Don't forget that. Emirates got one over us. Porto also took us to penalties. We just won there at the end of the day. The away record in Champions League for Arsenal in general, under Mikel Arteta specifically, even in Europe in general, is quite shocking to say the least. And this year, in 2024, Arsenal still hasn't scored an away goal in Champions League matches. No cap, no nothing. We didn't score against Bayern Munich. We didn't score against Porto. We didn't score against Atalanta. And we didn't score against Inter Milan. So now we are going for the 5th away game in Champions League this calendar year. And we are going to a country to get to play against Portuguese team who we have already struggled against. And on top of that, in a form where quite a bit is left to be desired. Because remember last year against Porto, when we didn't have a shot on target. Remember 3 years ago, 3 years ago, against Sporting Lisbon, where 2 years ago, where we went away, and it took us so much luck at the end of the day to get even a 2-2 draw against them that it is actually nuts. And let's be real, the Porto game last year, we should have lost that game 3-4-0. Because in the first half, Evan Nilsson hit the post, skied one over the bar, and then it took them to 93rd, 94th minute on a counter for... who was it? Was it Pepe? Or was it... not Wendell? The other one on the left wing. Galeno, who curled it in far corner. Raya was a bit out of position there as well. It's not looking great. It genuinely is not looking great for Arsenal in away games in Portugal in general. It's genuinely shocking. Their defense is in trouble when the Saka in the room. Dude, don't do this. Don't do this at the moment, especially in the form we are in right now. Don't overhype one win over Nottingham Forest, who were genuinely awful. They were like night and day comparatively to the team they looked before the international break. That international break screwed them over. Genuinely screwed them over. Because Arsenal were in a very bad form without some of their best players. They were flying. Yes, they lost to Newcastle, but ultimately they were flying. And I believe that if we played them before the international break, it would have been quite hell of a game. In all ways, shapes, or forms. Now that there was an international break and everything, it kind of stopped their progress and form. Arsenal got some of their best players back, healed as well fully, and I think that played a massive role as well. Because Nottingham Forest looked quite awful, I'm not gonna lie. Never looked like they're gonna score. But that Saka in the room, right? Where was that last year against Porto? Against Bayern Munich? Where was that against what's its face? Sporting Lisbon even. Where was that? Where was that? Let's be real. Where was that? Because that didn't work then as well. CR7. What do you mean CR7 moment? We need to start playing when Yeri. Look at Yamal. He's 17 and carrying... Yeah, the thing is, he was carrying Spain. He was carrying Barcelona, and at the moment he's injured. So we cannot do that as well, because Bukayo Saka as well, he was carrying Arsenal for the longest time, and it currently feels like we are paying the price for the fact that we have basically put the whole team on his back. He's starting to limp. He's becoming Sir Limps a lot. He is getting some injuries here or there, smaller ones per se, but he's getting them, which means it's not a good sign in general long term. And we have basically run him into the ground with no backup for numerous years, by the way, as well. If we don't get some backup for him, it could also go basically very, very poorly for Arsenal long term. When Yeri more goals than Foden, Savio and Grealish combined. Dude, just no. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. We already talked about this yesterday. We don't do that here. Yeah, it was Galeno. Big up Marlon. They produce, but the thing is, in the big games when it matters the most, they tend to go missing quite a bit. And that is the big issue for me, because ultimately for us to finish in top 8, for not to have to play that extra elimination round, we need to beat Sporting Lisbon. Because then if we manage to win against the Dinamo Zagreb, if we manage to win against Monaco at home, then we are pretty much golden. We are there. But if we lose this game as well, it could be hella nuts. It could get hella nuts. That is the big thing for me. Plus, Sporting Lisbon is one of few teams who still haven't lost a game in Champions League. Obviously, they had Amorim then. We'll see what's going to happen once Amorim has left. But ultimately as well, you cannot take anything away from that team. And you cannot take them for granted. I'm not underrating Saka or Odegaard or anyone else. It's just the fact I'm talking from the previous experiences. And it's not pretty, let's be real. The previous experiences from the previous Champions League games, some big away games, it's nothing pretty in that regard. It's nothing pretty to look at. And that for me is the biggest worry. Because to win the Champions League, we need to win the away games as well. Need to get proper results in the away games. And so far this year, we haven't even scored a goal in the away game. So there is quite a bit left to be desired. The question is, can we beat that mental block? Can we score the goal? Can we get it over the line in general? I predict the same 11, but Havertz, Martinelli and Partey. Most likely, I think Arteta rested Havertz definitely, Partey as well. Martinelli definitely. I think Martinelli also could do good against Sporting Lisbon. But I said that last year about Porto, and before that again about Sporting Lisbon. And remember 2 years ago was it? I think so, yeah, when we were playing Sporting Lisbon, that was the year when we were flying in the league. Attacking football, nothing could stop us pretty much besides ourselves, of course, at the end of the day. And that was the game against Sporting Lisbon. Remember when Saliba got injured, our season almost pretty much fell apart. We had to play Rob Holding, and the rest is just a painful memory at the moment. 8-point lead just got annihilated at the end, and we lost the league by 5 points. So that one Saliba injury, technically, was a 13-point swing. 5-game swing at the end of the day. Yeah, and that was definitely nothing pretty to look at and to remember, let's be real. That's the thing. I'm not saying I don't have the faith in the team, just the previous experiences are if we go by previous experiences, it's not a pretty look. That is the big thing. Because every single year, many Arsenal fans go, Sporting should be scared, Porto should be scared, worst Bayern team in a decade. And they always took us till the end of the hour, and they pretty much every single one beat us. In one way or another. And that is a big worry for me. Exactly, that is the big thing. If we want to win in Champions League, we need to beat Sporting away. That will be a great start for that. We need to show what we have. We need to make a statement. But so far, whenever we are in these away games against bigger oppositions, we basically just crumble. And that for me is a big issue. I know this is off topic, but why do play Zinchenko at left back if he plays centerman, plays centerman for as that for Mikel Arteta. Because for Ukraine, they play Mykolenko, if I'm not mistaken, at left back, so he plays midfield. For Arsenal, at the end of the day, he still plays midfield because the way we invert, he goes from left into the middle, and we still play like that. Jorginho was so good, but we need to keep Partey from going. Yeah, definitely. Partey's for. I don't know whether Partey at the moment is just in a very good form, or he's extra trying hard and actually succeeding because his contract runs out at the end of the season. He's playing for a new contract, whether it's at Arsenal or anywhere else. But as long as he keeps this going, it could be a very, very good thing for Arsenal. God forbid he gets injured. Then it could get curtains again. At center mid, Zinchenko, as good as he plays, yes. Definitely. Basically, New Deal form. like it's in every sport, whether you watch football, you watch NBA, by the way, whenever players in the last year of his contract, for some weird goddamn reason, all of a sudden they become 2 times better than they were the whole time they were under a contract. They just know their future is in balance. They don't know what they're gonna get paid, what's gonna happen, where they're gonna go, or anything. And so all of a sudden it's like they flip a switch and they go from third gear into sixth gear instantly. I don't know. Pep played him as a left back, played him in the midfield, played him as a number 9 even, and still didn't find his best position. So if Pep Guardiola couldn't manage him and find his best position, I'm not sure Mikel Arteta will as well to that regard. Partey finally accepted his physicality dropped. I hope so. I genuinely hope so, because one of the first, although Partey wasn't the quickest in general, but one of the first things he is losing definitely is the pace, and he needs to adjust the game around that, because the skill and the ability always will be there. The thing is the legs. He needs to adjust for the legs. That is the big thing. I think Jorginho is good, but he is not as good as Partey when pushes our attack forward. For me, Thomas Partey is a great like thread the needle link-up play between defense to the attack. Like if it goes from defense to him and then to Odegaard or Saka or whoever's up front. He's great at that. But Jorginho, on the other hand, is great when you need a long ball, long outlet to someone. Like, for example, running in behind, running in between the lines. Jorginho thrives in that. So it just depends what you want to see from the team. The big thing is, Sporting is gonna play tomorrow very physical football. With their Humeland, who else is there? Gonçalves, of course. That midfielder, Japanese one, I forgot his name. I think he's still there. They have quite a bit of players that are very physical and very strong on the ball, so we need to put somewhat physical 11 out there as well. The big issue is, whenever we play against these physical teams, we never do good. As soon as the teams get physical, tough with us, we always tend to disappear, and that for me is a big worry at the moment. Theo did it and we made a... To be honest, Theo Walcott in this team specifically actually could be fired. Genuinely. Jorginho doesn't have the speed to run forward and to put... Yeah, that is the thing. He just doesn't have the legs. Footballing IQ is off the charts. Pass is there. Technical ability is there. It's just the fact that he doesn't have the legs. And same is slowly happening with Thomas Partey. And Calafiori is just a beast at left back. He has the speed. Calafiori sometimes plays as number 10 as a striker, similar like Timber does sometimes. It's very weird to look at. It's very scary if we lose the ball as well. Calafiori is pretty decent pushing forward, I'm not gonna lie. But defensively, there is still massive room for him to improve. Massive room for him to improve. As good as he is at times, he still tends also to hold on for possession too much. He gets sometimes shoved off the ball too easily, and he gets cooked a bit too often for my taste in general. Obviously, you're not gonna defend every single attack, but many times it's just his side and his screw up that kind of makes the dangerous situation, or his overcommitment going forward that screws us up going backwards. Jorginho, Merino, Odegaard was the most balanced midfield this year. Jorginho, Merino, Odegaard. Arguably, there was also against Chelsea when we had midfield of Rice, Merino and Odegaard. That also was somewhat balanced because Rice was sitting at the 6, and that also was working pretty decent this season. That also was, to some extent, I wonder how that would look with fully fit Odegaard if he wasn't injured. What do you feel about Timber? First of all, I don't want to feel him, no Didi and stuff like that, of course. But I'm not gonna lie, I prefer him at right back more than Ben White. Yes, I know there is passing there is everything there, there's connection there with Odegaard and Saka. But for me, Timber at right back feels more solid defensively, which again opens the legs and possibilities for Saka in the attack. Saka about nearly 2 months ago in interviews said whilst White was injured he loved to play with Timber as the right back, because after the game he said that because Timber kind of provides extra coverage defensively, and he's more trustworthy defensively, and in that regard, Bukayo Saka kind of doesn't have to track back, or with somewhat panic in his mind that something could go wrong. He's more solid defensively, and I think if we get the ball with Timber's strength, his pace, and everything, and we can push instant outlet to Saka or Odegaard to push on a counter, it kind of opens up us more and it makes us more dangerous in the attack as well, on counter or in general. And I think Timber kind of excels at that, and he's very good defensively. He kind of has the perfect combination in terms of that for Arsenal. Plus, he can play at left back as well if needed. So for me personally, if Timber can stay injury free and sustain this form, I can see him being our number one right back at some point. I can see that long term. I can see it. I genuinely can see it. Because from all the defensive line we have at the moment, despite the left back issues and everything, our right back, Ben White, arguably given the players we have on defense, is kind of most subjective to this issue. And Havertz is underrated at striker. He scores more goals than Jesus and is always in the box to score, plus he has the speed. You know, it's not hard to score more goals than Jesus. We just looked at it. Jesus hasn't scored a goal since January this year. So it's not that difficult. The thing about Havertz is all the goals he has scored this season has been at home. So he hasn't scored away, first of all. And as much as he is a threat in the air and everything, plus he has the pace, he lacks the clinical ability. He lacks the finishing touch at the end, because we have seen him go one-on-one, see him have positions where more often than not, if you have a proper striker there, it's a goal, but Havertz just whiffs it or shoots at the keeper or misses the target. There is still quite a bit left to be desired in that striker spot. As a backup, I can deal with Havertz. As a main guy, he is not the one to get us over the line, in my opinion, still. Big up Pepper in the chat. Big up my guy. Sporting, yeah, that's what I'm expecting. Very physical, tough game. And I'm very, very interested to see how Saliba and Gabriel will handle Gyökeres. I'm very interested in that. Very interested in that, how that will go. I understand he's not a traditional striker, but he scores, but he just scores too much at home. He just needs to be more clinical and more ball smart. But that's the thing. In my opinion, you can teach skills. You can teach certain ways to read the game, potentially. You cannot teach something a player doesn't have. The clinical ability, it's, in my opinion, impossible to teach. You can perfect the technique, how you shoot, how you curl the ball, how much power you put it, how to shoot the proper outside of the foot and everything. But the clinical ability, that killer instinct, you either have it or you don't. And ultimately, at the end of the day, many times, well, all the time pretty much, that separates world-class strikers from medium strikers, medium-level strikers. For me, at least. That's the way I see it. And Havertz, for me, he's not a world-class striker. He's just a regular striker who can also play... Well, he's not even a striker per se, but he's an attacker who can play multiple positions. The clinical ability, that is something that he doesn't have, and he won't most likely learn. He will have chances to score, and basically every single time he will have this chance, you will be at the edge of the seat, you will be sitting nervous on the edge of your sofa, or hide behind the sofa like it's a scary movie, do a coin toss, and just pray that it goes in when he shoots the ball. That's how I feel when Havertz is in those positions. I know it's bad, but I strongly believe we need a proper killer striker with a clinical finishing instinct in front of the net still. West Ham are beating Newcastle at St. I'm not even watching under the lights. Why can we not even get shot on target against them? Oh, let's not do this now. Let's genuinely don't do this now. We have Lisbon Sporting tomorrow. From last year's Porto game, when we didn't have a shot on target, I don't even want to think about this at the moment. Let's play just what's in front of us. Genuinely, let's just play. Let's take one game at a time. Let's just see what's in front of us and go from there. Do you think we need new center backs because we only have Saliba and Gabriel at center back? Why we don't have any other good center backs? But that's the thing. That's how Arteta envisions this team. We have two center backs, and then we have quote unquote defenders who can play all across the back line. Because if you think about it, Ben White is, well, center back who plays right back, but he predominantly is a right back. Timber is a right back slash center back. Tomiyasu can play all across the back line. Kivior is a center back slash left back. Nichols is a right back slash center back. Who else is there? Calafiori is a center back slash left back. Technically, we have cover everywhere across the back line. However, there's a big but coming, and it's not Kim Kardashian. For me personally, there are certain positions in the team where you need to have specialists. I've said this throughout my whole streaming time since I've been streaming. There are positions in the team where you need specialists who only do that thing and nothing else. Like, for example, we have Timber who can play left back, right back, center back, right? But we have Saliba who only plays center back. We have only Gabriel who plays center back. Same goes, for example, for Rodri. He only plays number 6. There's Haaland who only plays striker. They don't have also players who basically, Haaland doesn't play left wing or left 8 at the times. Rodri doesn't play right wing half the time. That is also a big thing for me. You need specialists at least through the spine of your team. Center backs, number 6, striker, and the 10 is a very vague thing at the moment because that position, the pure number 10, is a very hit and miss these days, and it was dying out. I think it's a bit coming back, but at the same time, it's a very, very vague thing at the moment. I know Calafiori and Timber can play there, but we need to... Exactly, that's what we need. My head is in a different place right now, but I need to clear negative thoughts. That's the thing. For me, the way I envision tomorrow's game, people say maybe I'm negative, I'm not believing in the team, but I'm just thinking about the previous experiences, like last year's Champions League games, 2 years ago Europa League games, our away record in Champions League this year when we haven't scored a single goal in away games, and how we have performed in those games. And it just genuinely just puts that mindset in that it genuinely will be a long day tomorrow. Especially if Saliba and Gabriel cannot deal with Gyökeres. It could get bad. Every game I watched, even non-Arsenal related, is annoying me at this point. You need a break. Genuinely, you need a break. Or Arsenal need to win a trophy. Maybe then it will change. Does Merino need to score more in, or is his defensive play dual wielding what he's here for? I can't figure out Merino as well at the moment. Because technically, he's good at tackling. Yet at the same time, sometimes he misses the tackle, and if he misses the tackle, he doesn't have the pace to recover. While he turns around after the tackle, it's like a double-decker bus. The opponent already is on the edge of our box. Going forward, yes, he's 6 foot, 2, 3, 4, 6 foot 3, I think. He can ball in the air. He can maybe put a leg in there like we saw against Nottingham Forest, like we did even before that. But ultimately, when I watch Merino play, I'm struggling at the moment to understand what is his main role in the team. Like, genuinely, I'm a bit struggling with that. Because I know what certain players are going to do during the games, where they have to play and how they will play. But there is, for example, Merino, who I still am trying to figure out. I still have no idea. Obviously, he was injured in the beginning of the season. It took some time to settle in. He maybe was forced a bit into the team due to injuries and everything. But ultimately, it's a bit of a 50-50 at the moment for him as well. Plus, they don't get any rest. I know Timber, Calafiori have the fullbacks that we need back. Yeah, that's the thing. We need backups pretty much everywhere. And the fact is that our backups sometimes are not even good to be backups. That is also the case. Because, for example, Zinchenko, as much as you want to play him as a left back or even a midfield, especially at left back, he's just not good enough. As a backup, he's not good enough to be a backup. So that is also a thing that really bothers me. Marino was perfect versus Forest in a team with so many touch-heavy players. He was one moving. Yeah, that is the thing. If you play a team that is maybe a bit less technically gifted, he actually can do his thing. The thing is, as soon as he has to play against players who are technically gifted and very skillful on the ball, it's a bit of a struggle zone for him. I have noticed that in the midfield battles, definitely. I definitely have noticed that. I know we have had bad results in away games, but our team, on paper, they are better, technically. At the same time, quite a bit left there is more to be desired. Quite a bit is left there to be desired still. Our team has gotten better, maybe if we just have faith in our team, but we can... That's the thing. You can have as much faith as you want, but as long as there are certain things that Mikel Arteta, in my opinion, changes about the team, that faith means nothing. Because I still believe that Mikel Arteta is kind of pulling down our players, at least creativity-wise. He basically has boxed them in certain roles. They play like robots half the time, and he doesn't give them the freedom. Sometimes it feels like he's more defensive-minded at the moment, which again is a big issue because we are the most dangerous when we attack. Obviously, 2 years ago we saw that it didn't work out. Last year we played complete opposite. That didn't work out as well. And since then he has struggled to find a proper balance. Our balance in the attack is off the place. It's not actually balanced. Our midfield at the moment is also struggling for balance. And because we have the same players we had last year. Yes, we have Calafiori, Timber is back and stuff like that. But at the same time, we have the same players we had last year, yet our performances have dropped drastically from last year. Either players are being overplayed, the fact that they are drained mentally and physically maybe with no backups and everything is starting to take toll slowly but steadily, because many players that we have in the team also play the big roles in their national teams. So they don't get even breaks during international time. So maybe that also plays a significant role in everything. And ultimately it all piles up. And at the end of the day, at some point, the penny has to drop and something has to happen. And it's not a good thing, obviously. Notice we got clean sheet in the match against Forest. We have gotten away better. We haven't gotten way better. The thing is, Forest didn't offer us anything. It's very easy to get a clean sheet against a team that offers you nothing. That is also the case because Forest were genuinely awful. The question is, can we actually get a clean sheet against Sporting Lisbon, against Aston Villa, against Man City, against Liverpool? Those are the games where it matters the most. And if we cannot do that in those games, it's a big issue. Because as much as I want to say that we need to get these clean sheets and everything, I much rather score 10 goals and concede 3 at the end of the day than we score 1 goal, as we tend to do quite a bit, then we sit back and pray we don't concede. Because then switching from this park the bus type of situation into 6th gear for the attack, it might be too late due to time, or again mentally players need to kind of snap out of it and they just cannot do it. And they're just not in the rhythm, they're not just in the right place of mind, and they just cannot push themselves at it anymore. I won't be happy until we win 10 in a row. Dude, it means you won't be happy ever. Like, no kidding, no jokes. But you say we happy until we win 10 in a row. What if we get a draw? That means all the counter resets. What you're gonna do then? Exactly. That for me is the thing. We just have to wait and see how the team plays tomorrow. We don't know what's gonna happen. The thing is though, based on the previous experiences, it's nothing pretty. I just hope that the team proves me wrong. I can sit here and say we haven't scored a goal away in Champions League in 2024 yet. Our performances away in Champions League have been awful and all that stuff. But ultimately, it's just from what I have seen over the time. I'm all about my team proving me wrong. I'm all about that. But at the moment, based on previous experiences, it is what it is. It just depends how you look at things. 9 points behind Liverpool. We need to win the next 9. In my opinion, we need to win every single game until the end of this calendar year. Maybe one draw could be in there, but ultimately we need to win every single game. Forest were terrible. No, really surprised me showing so much. Yeah, that's the thing. Nottingham Forest were genuinely awful. I strongly believe that the international break screwed them over, and it helped us because due to injuries, our team got our best players back. It stopped their momentum and everything. But yeah, how Nuno played 2 days ago, it was a bit of a surprise compared to previous results and previous games how they have played. Maybe he got some PTSD from the Newcastle game, I don't know, but I guess only he knows. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't care if my goalkeeper wins or doesn't win Golden Glove at the end of the season, as long as we win. That for me is the case. Obviously, you can win, you can score about 90 goals and you can concede 40 goals. People say that it's not a winning thing, right? You don't win the league like that. But technically, if you win every game 2-1, at the end of the season you have scored 76 goals, you have conceded 38 goals. So it just depends. It will balance each other out at some point. I just hope that in January we actually do some proper business, because I think on January transfer window quite heavily rides everything at the moment. Of course, we have to get till there. We still have 9 games to go, 6 in the league, 2 in the Champions League and 2 in the Cup. Well, 1 in the Cup, sorry. But there's quite a bit riding on those games at the moment, because game against Palace will determine if we get into semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. The game against Sporting Lisbon and against Monaco will determine whether we're gonna finish in top 8 or top 6 or below 8th place, and that means a extra stage in Champions League. And the 6 games we have in Premier League, if we lose even one of those games, it could generally put a big red cross across our whole season, and it is what it is type of situation at the end of the day. We must get a clean sheet against Sporting, City and Liverpool if we be a team who's exactly. And on top of that, we cannot afford to be this scary puppy dog team that sits back all the time. Because Arsenal arguably is the team that shows the uttermost respect to every single opponent, specifically Man City in this regard as well, that they play against them. Because as much as I see any other team play, mostly, they just go for it. They see what is what, and because it will be what it is. Arsenal, on the other hand, sit back. I don't know if it's respect, Arteta is scared of something or what, but against City, we just are scared to attack. Our defense should be good enough to withstand a certain amount of pressure, but at many times we concede such dumb goals, which basically even sometimes teams in Sunday League don't concede most of the time. So it's a weird one. It's a very weird one. Being an Arsenal fan is hella weird. A draw is like a loss. Well, depends. It genuinely depends on lots of things. In the league, depends against who. Because if it's like Spurs who lose to Ipswich and they beat Man City, then it's like a loss. But if we win every single game and maybe we draw to Man United or someone like that, it could be a bit different. It depends against who you draw and depends on the other results. But for me at the moment, I don't care about Man United on December 3rd or 4th or whatever. At the moment, I'm all focused on Sporting game. After Sporting game, it is West Ham away. And after West Ham away, it is Liverpool versus Man City game. And after that, it's the next game. I'm going game by game basis. I'm not calculating the results we need to get and where Liverpool could drop points. Ultimately, we need to do our thing. We need to do at the best of our abilities. We need to try and win every single game. And if it's meant to be, the things will come and things will happen. Just do your best. But many times the way we play, the way we drop points, the stinking performances we put out, it feels like we just don't perform to our best. And that's what's very irritating at the end of the day. Because against Forest, arguably, besides PSG game, that was our best performance this season. No kidding, that was it. I looked and we need to win every game up until Brighton away. Well, basically, for me, we need to win every game until January transfer window, see where we are, and if we have gone closer to Liverpool and City, and if we get closer to Liverpool and City, then we need to do a proper job in January. Because for me, I somehow get a feeling, no matter what's gonna happen, we are not signing a striker in January. Striker is summer transfer window focus all over the place, in my opinion at least. Because if we fall back, there is arguably no reason to spend the money. If we get closer, it could show just, we don't need a striker. Our team can do the job, and it basically will be, again, put on a back burner, on a shelf until summer. And then we will reassess. That's how I feel about this. Yes, it's cool we are linked with Isak, we are linked with Gyökeres and players like that, but it all screams summer more than January whatsoever. That is the thing. Plus past experiences in January transfer window also doesn't get me excited, let's just say that, to say the least. Chris Wood had to travel for 24 hours. Yeah, that's the thing. I think jet lag and everything. He looked hella pissed on the bench as well, by the way. Very annoyed. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter because Nottingham Forest just didn't turn up. They just didn't turn up. It is what it is. Yep, it is about the games, definitely. The transfer window opening is Brighton away on January 4th. It will be a rough one. I think Brighton away, especially how we handle ourselves at home, although performances at the time were genuinely abysmal, to say the least. We'll see what's going to happen. We'll see what's going to happen then. We'll see where we are in the table, by the way. At the moment, it's a very, very rough race for the title as well. And in general, in the league, it's a very, very rough one. Anything else for today? What we can talk about besides Kieran Tierney is back and everything? I forgot what I have liked. Aston Villa, AC Milan, and Juventus will battle out with Arsenal for Arda Güler, apparently, according to Code of Side, which means Arsenal are not gonna get him because Arsenal, as they have said themselves, they don't do well in bidding wars. Well, that basically puts it all out the window, doesn't it? But I guess we'll have to wait and see. By the way, what's the result in Newcastle game? What is the result in Newcastle game? West Ham still winning 1-0. They are fighting for Lopetegui to stay, aren't they? They genuinely are fighting for Lopetegui to stay. Lopetegui got a yellow card as well. Holy crap. Newcastle, 13 shots, 2 on target, 1.2, 1.3 XG, it just changed. West Ham, 6 shots, 2 on target, 0.2 XG. Sounds like FIFA. And everything. I guess it is what it is. What are the lineups saying? Who scored, by the way? Souček scored. Interesting. Interesting. The thing is, if you look at West Ham's team, right? They have a team that should be finishing, I would say, 8th to 11th, somewhere in that gap. But they never ever, besides that 1-2 seasons under David Moyes, can put it together. They just cannot do it properly. That is what's weird for me about West Ham. Genuinely, that's very weird for me about West Ham. We need to stop worrying about City and Liverpool and start worrying about winning and dominating till January. Exactly, that is the thing. We are 1 point behind City. We are on the same points as Chelsea and Brighton, and we are 9 points behind Liverpool. At the moment, we should basically go game by game basis, win the game that's in front of us. At the moment, it's West Ham away next weekend. Then just hope that either City wins or they draw the game so we can get just a tiny bit closer. Then go basically game by game basis, and by January transfer window where there is a possibility that we can make some changes, some new players get in potentially, right? We need to close the gap as much as possible. We need some favorable results, obviously, but we will have to hope for that basically. At the moment, it just doesn't depend on us. It's also somewhat hope that there's somewhere the points get dropped along the way from Liverpool and Man City, of course. Plus, we don't know what Chelsea is all about, because if they get it properly right, they could be a very dangerous side. 32-year-old Brighton manager is generally destroying it at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes as well, by the way. I was worried that this game would be Lopetegui's last and we would have to face a new manager bounce. Well, Might not be the case. Genuinely might not be the case. We could actually get lucky. Where is, by the way, West Ham? West Ham are 14th. If they win the game, they jump up to 10th. Yo, that's wild. If West Ham win this game, they're on the same points as Newcastle. Huh. I say we just loan out a 29 to 30-year-old striker and see how he plays, see what happens, how we play an experienced striker. Oh my god, Van Bissaka! 2-0 West Ham. Holy crap, Newcastle are crumbling. Isak might actually pull the emergency eject button from Newcastle. Generally, Bruno Guimaraes also could do that. There are clauses for Champions League teams, specific ones worked into their contracts. That actually could be the case. And by the way, no matter what happens, I expect Man City to sign at least 2-3 players in January. A Rodri replacement as a 6, a proper backup for Erling Haaland and someone else. That's how I see already Man City operating. They have identified their issues already. And it's quite evident, let's be real as well. So if they also manage to stay somewhat close to Liverpool, and they go into January transfer window and they get to sign the players they want, they will be right back. There's no argument about that. Because as long as City are in a touching distance, they are always a threat. Always a threat. Plus, as good as Liverpool have been at the moment, as long as they have been so far, there might be a drop-off at some point. There might be. I'm not saying there will be. I'm not saying there can, but I'm saying there can be a drop-off. Liverpool at the moment remind me of Arsenal from 2 years ago. Going against everyone and blitzing the teams all over the place. And obviously for us it just generally went downhill when Saliba especially got injured when we were 8 points clear. So it will remain to see what's going to happen with that. And for January we buy a powerhouse CDM and a CM we spay that can push forward and buy a left back and center back, experienced back who can... Dude, this is pure on career mode type shit, signing about 6 players in one window. Arsenal are maybe gonna sign 2 or 3. Maybe not 2 or 3, even 1 or 2. We need competitions for Saka, for Odegaard, for center backs. We need a striker. We need quite a bit, to be honest. And with contracts running out at the end of this season as well, if we don't start doing our job properly now in this January window, in summer technically we might need to sign about 6 players in specific areas as well. Liverpool are not convincing most games. That's the thing, Salah bails them out. But to win a title, you need that player who gets you over the line when you are not looking convincing and the things are not going your way. And now imagine if the things start going their way on top of that. It's end of days pretty much. We need Kroenke to be in the room with true Arsenal fans who can pressure them to buy. They're not gonna budge. Dude, you cannot become a billionaire if you fall under a pressure from anyone. Business in general is a cruel thing, is a cruel movement and a cruel stuff. And to become billionaires in these instances, pressure they eat for breakfast like cereal, basically. That is also a thing. It's not career mode, I'm just... No, I get it. I totally understand you, and I totally agree with you, to be honest. We need a number 8. We need a backup for Odegaard. We need a backup for Saka. We need a striker. We need proper backups for maybe Saliba or Gabriel. So that's already 5 players. Next summer, we need to sign a goalkeeper as well because Neto is leaving. So technically, we need already 6 players. If Jorginho's contract runs out and we won't renew it, if Partey's contract runs out and we won't renew it, we need to sign a number 6. That's 7 players or 8 even players already. So if we don't start doing this business right now, we might left ourselves very short in summer as well. We might struggle to sign some players. It will come down to panic signing like Raheem Sterling, and then you can forget about titles or anything. We will be fighting quite convincingly for top 4 at best. If you can look at it also that way. We need depth in almost every single position on the pitch, to be honest. We have maybe 3-4 positions where we have proper depth. Rest of them are out there to dry, hang out to dry basically. And if you want to replace that position, you need to play a player out of position at the end of the day. Because if White is injured, and now Timber gets injured, guess who goes right back? Party. Anyone wants that? Whilst, by the way, Declan Rice is injured, which means Jorginho will start games now. Which means from the bench we have nobody for the midfield. It could unravel like domino effect very quickly at the end of the day as well. We don't have good squad depth. We don't have depth almost in general. We have maybe 3 players, maybe 4 we can sub on, and even then, maybe 2 of them guarantee some sort of impact. Overall, maybe 2 of them guarantee some sort of impact. The rest of them are just passengers. And they all are so overpaid, it's actually nuts. The way we waste money on wages is embarrassing. We need squad depth in the position. Exactly. Last year, 25-man squad. Smallest one in Premier League. What we do this year for this season, we make it even smaller to 22 players. Plus we make net profit from summer transfer window. Which team who is fighting for the title and came this close to winning it 2 years in a row is gonna do that? Which one? Only Arsenal. Partey is the right back. He actually had decent games, to be honest. He shut down Luis Diaz as well. Wasn't too bad. Was he Diaz who he played against? I think it was. I think it was against Liverpool he played right back. But anyways, back to Sporting game. I'm expecting a very tough and rough game. I think they will try to rough us up like they did 2 years ago, like Portuguese teams do in general. I expect a very, very nail-biting game potentially. If our center backs can deal with Gyökeres, we could get some chances. If we cannot deal with that, we are done instantly. And on top of that, we need to find a way to score away goals in Champions League, because so far we have scored none. That is a big issue. We need a statement performance tomorrow. A massive win and a massive statement performance. We need that. We just don't need it for the points in the books. We need it to break mentally the block, which is, I think, genuinely assume our players have in their mindset. Do you think we need to bring in some more academy players to bring in some that? It doesn't matter. They will come in no matter what. The thing is, it doesn't matter if you bring them in or you don't bring them in, how many you bring them in. Because if they're not ready, it's basically a moot point. There's no reason. Klopp beat us with his under-20 team in the cup last year. That went well as well. But anyways, guys, I'm expecting a very rough, tough game. And I'm gonna go with... I actually don't know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm struggling for this. But I'm gonna be hopeful for once. And if we are not victorious, the Wednesday stream, I'm not streaming tomorrow, by the way, because Arsenal play in the evening and I cannot stream and do it at the same time. On the Wednesday stream, it will be hell on earth, potentially. But I'm gonna go with hopeful Arsenal fan in heart. And I'm gonna say 2-1 Arsenal. We haven't scored an away goal yet in Champions League away games. And I think at some point it has to happen. And if we want to go anywhere in Champions League, if we want to challenge even for anything, we need to start winning the away games. And there is no better way to start doing this by winning against Sporting Lisbon and getting our revenge over the Europa League fiasco, basically. So I'm going for 2-1 Arsenal. That's what I'm going with in my heart. My brain is saying 2-1 Sporting Lisbon, by the way. If not 3-1 Sporting Lisbon. But I'm gonna go with my heart in this instance. I'm gonna be a top gunner, if you will, in a way. And I'm gonna hope and pray, fingers crossed, that Arsenal win 2-1. I predict 2-1 Sport. Oh, Pepper is not too positive. 1-0. Jimmy is saying 1-0 to Arsenal. We need to start. We'll see what happens with 1 year in Champions League. Let's see what that happens then. My heart is cold right now. 2-1 Sporting. So you think cold Gyökeres is gonna do this for 1 day? For one day, and that's why I'm saying 2-1. I hope Arsenal in this instance proved me right. There is a reason for us why we are in Champions League. Because this cannot continue. Not scoring away goals in Champions League, not winning games away in Champions League. It just cannot continue. If we don't start winning, we just don't belong at the end of the day. Because one of the legs, it's gonna be away. And if we cannot perform in those circumstances, it's genuinely impossible to be there. So what I'm gonna do is say 2-1 Arsenal, Top Gunner as Nathan wants to say, Top Gunner for one prediction, and let's just hope Arsenal doesn't prove me right again in terms of that we're gonna stink out the place. Because I'm making this prediction in hope. Because if it was my brain, I was predicting with my brain as I would think, I'm telling you now, it would be 2 or 3-1 Sporting. But I'm going with my Gunner heart. But yeah, on that note, on this sentimental, emotional, Top Gunnerish note, and all that crap, I'm gonna end today's stream. So thank you guys so much for watching. Big up Marlon, big up Pepper, Jimmy, Nathan, everyone who was here, everyone who subscribed, hit that bell, liked, commented. You have been freaking fantastic. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Trying to hit 400 subscribers before the end of this calendar year. So yeah, for today, take care, stay safe. Hope Arsenal does something tomorrow. Big up Jimmy. Hope Arsenal does something tomorrow. And see you all on Wednesday. Yeah.